right. It looks and sounds like we're ready to get started with our meeting. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
All right, then we'll call our meeting to order, a special City Council meeting of Tuesday, May 19th. I'll look to the clerk to do a roll call, please. And welcome, good evening and welcome everyone.
Mayor Doring,
Here.
Vice Mayor Deasy, Councilmember Barrick,
Here.
and Councilmember Spataroto.
Here.
All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're moving right along on to item 4 of our agenda, adoption of the agenda. Ms. Opp, are there any updates for this evening?
There are none.
See no updates or changes. I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Is there a second? A motion and a second to adopt the agenda as listed and stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not. Wow, we got unanimous consent from the audience too. Thank you. Thank you. We're on to item 5, public forum. A little bit different. We're going to take public comment as the item is introduced and we start talking about it. Under California law, public comments at special meetings are limited to subjects on the agenda only. Therefore, public comment will take place during consideration of the item. Each person's comment shall be limited to 4 minutes. So we'll wait a little bit before we get to public comment. All right, we're getting right into our new business item. We have one item tonight, momentous item, big item, important item, and hopefully we can all get educated around it. So this is the Blackburg Group Study, Efficiency and Business Transformation Study, the final report. I'll look to you, Mr. McCann, to introduce the item, and we'll get going. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, council members, the members of the community. Welcome. You are absolutely correct. It is a big item tonight. This is the presentation of the report by Keith Fawcett. He's a principal with the Blackburg Group. The report is the Efficiency and Business Transformation Study. Before we hear from Keith, I have a few comments I'd like to offer to the council. First is to thank you and really to congratulate the council on recognizing the need to assess and to evaluate and to propose improvements to the city organization. And I think it's brought forward very valuable and honest observations, findings, and recommendations. I'd also like to thank our staff. They participated in this, the committees, different committees of our ad hoc committees, as well as folks in the community provided lots of encouragement, involvement, and input. This study is extremely comprehensive. It provides a deep look at the city's operations, procedures, processes, systems, organizational structure, our use of technology, our internal controls, different management systems, strategic planning, and on and on. It provides observations and findings and recommendations in a detailed and very candid and comprehensive fashion, sometimes with language that might be a little bit complex. If the language doesn't get you, some of the charts and graphs, I think, will. There is much in this study, and much of it has lots of merit. The study really is an extraordinary effort which presents numerous findings and recommendations which will, I believe, serve as a foundation for change, improvement, and transformation of the city's operations over time. We, staff, don't agree with everything that's in the study or with some of the tone that is expressed in the study or how some matters are described. However, we do agree that our organization would benefit from the adoption and implementation of many of the ideas, most of the ideas indeed, and recommendations that are contained in the study. I recommend that we receive the presentation from Mr. Fawcett, discuss and provide direction afterwards to staff, also after you hear from the community about their thoughts. And that direction would be for us to deeply assess the full report. I think that will involve some further communication with Mr. Fawcett. He's indicated to me that he and his firm are open to that. And then we would bring back recommendations to the City Council for an implementation plan that would include immediate, short-term, and longer-term, as well as ongoing steps. I recognize, I think we all recognize, that some of the ideas and recommendations in the report are beyond our area of expertise. We'll need some consultant help to guide us as we develop that plan and as we implement the plan. I also think we need some consultant help to find the best way for us to engage with the community as we develop this implementation plan. Folks in the community have many good ideas, lots of perspective, and I think they want to be involved, and I think we should take advantage of that and engage with them. The timing of the plan is a bit awkward. We have a transition in our city manager. We'll have an election coming up soon. But timing's never perfect. And I think we should, and I think we can, and from my perspective, staff will begin with moving forward with different aspects of the study. For instance, one of the recommendations in the study is to improve our Department of Public Works in the manner in which we oversee our operations. There's a recommendation for an assistant director of public works focused specifically on operations. And with your concurrence, we intend to move forward with that and bring a person on that will help us address the issues that Mr. Fawcett and his group have identified in public works in the one area of operations. I've urged the staff and council members in my private conversations with you to look at the positive aspects of the study. There are many. And to move forward with those, identify or recognize those that might not be as pleasant, but recognize that they exist and that we've got to challenge, we've got to tackle them. There's no doubt that there's much room for improvement in our organization. We, the staff, acknowledge that, and we're ready to act to address those shortcomings and to seize the opportunities that Mr. Fawcett has identified. The study absolutely can serve as a roadmap for improvement and change for the organization and then by extension for the community. Let me note one thing very clearly. There's no fraud among staff in the different departments. The study notes that with the lack of current or robust systems and controls, the environment for fraud or waste or abuse is heightened. That's what the study says. This is concerning and it has to be addressed. But the study did not find fraud, nor does it suggest that any fraud has occurred. Rather, that steps must be taken to protect against such behavior. We wholeheartedly agree with that. And I think it's important that we confirm that. And so we would recommend that among the very first steps would be to undertake a fraud, waste, and abuse assessment to ensure to us and to the community and to the council that there's no instance of that. So let me just restate. The study, I think, is tremendous. I think it's a very fortunate undertaking, provides us with a very current, very clear assessment of our strengths and our shortcomings, and recommends action that we can undertake. Some of these actions, I think, are beyond our capabilities, financial or organizational, but that doesn't mean that we ignore them. I think we have to modify them so they fit for us and for our community, and we're anxious to do that. I want to note that this is not going to be a quick matter. It's going to take literally years, I believe. But we want to be thoughtful and we want to be quick about it. So that's why we expect to take some time to run through all of the various elements of the plan, put together our own recommendations about how best to tackle this, and then bring that back to you. I expect that'll be this summer that we can bring it to you. Some things we will recommend that we move ahead directly. Others take some conversation with you and with the community to determine the best way to do that. As I mentioned, some will require specialized consultants to help us make sense of the best path for us, and we'll bring those recommendations to you. I also want to just say again that the community role is a significant one to help us understand which of the options that we can consider are most acceptable to the community. And so I hope to find willing partners. I'm sure there are a few out there. Anyway, I just think it's an excellent roadmap for us. It will help us to transform to be a more efficient, smart, anticipatory, transparent, communicative, responsible, and responsive organization. So I thank you for putting us on this journey. And Keith, welcome, and Emily too. I see Emily.
All right, thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, welcome.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm Keith Fawcett from Blackbird Group. I'm the project manager and also the lead consultant for the Efficiency and Business Transformation Study. Emily is joining me this evening. She was one of the supporting consultants in the study as well. Our study was a 9-month-long study, so we covered a lot of territory during that time. So what I'll be presenting to you here this evening is going to be a fairly high-level view of the study, and of course there's much more details, as Jim was alluding to, in the actual reports that we have submitted. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and advance us into what we'll be covering. I'll briefly go through the purpose of the study, our methodology, and overall approach. I'll be spending more of my time going through deliverables 1 through 4. And just quickly, as I'm moving through the slides, do you want to ask questions at the end of each slide or wait until the completion of the presentation?
Let's hold off to the end.
The end. Okay, great. So let me move us along to the purpose. So Blackbird focused on improving the efficiency and effectiveness of the city with this study. Now, this includes many aspects of strategy, management, and governance, with certainly a focus on process improvement. We assessed the current businesses, processes, identified inefficiencies, recommend strategies for improvement and transformation. We also looked at organizational structure components, areas of cost, and potential for the optimization of resources. We also examined potential for alignment of city services, technology, and organizational structure as we moved through the study. Our methodology for the study is our City Fitness Framework. We use this framework to organize our analysis and also, to a large extent, the reports themselves. So when you're looking at the fitness framework, you can look at any one of these particular elements in isolation, but we do recognize that an organization is a complex adaptive system with lots of interaction between the different elements. So we are also examining the interactions between these items as well. So our structure here are elements of effectiveness that covers talent, alignment, and structure. A lot of the focus of our study falls under control and coordination. That's where processes will live, governance, those kinds of items, as well as your management systems. However, we did look into quite a few other elements as well, including the elements of performance. We looked in some areas of the external ecosystem and some areas of communications as well, but our focus in those areas is a bit more limited. Also for note with our study, although we did interact some with the police department and the fire department, it was very brief. There are some pieces of input in the study that address fire department and police department, but it's at a minimum. Most of the study by far focuses on outside of those departments. Okay, so in our approach is 4 main parts. The first 3, the current state, information, insight analysis, and existing operations, more focus overall on current state of the city to give us a snapshot of what's going on. The current state analysis itself at the beginning included a survey and structured interviews and some brief analyses, primarily again focused on the results of that survey and structured interviews. The information and insight analysis, which is deliverable 2, included document reviews, more pointed data requests, quantitative analyses, follow-up interviews, and analysis of legacy surveys and other information. Existing operations has 4 subparts to it. We examined organizational structure and staffing, process improvement, financial efficiency, and technology utilization and modernization. And then the main report is the final report and recommendations. That is going to be the most important piece, in my opinion, of what we've submitted to the city, and that is the path forward and thinking about what can the city do to become more effective and efficient. And as Jim spoke to a little bit, the current state analysis is always a little bit uncomfortable because when we're coming in, we're tending to focus more on what's wrong, where there might be an issue or a weakness or a threat, rather than focusing on all the strengths and those sorts of items. So be mindful of that, please. When we go to our final report and recommendations, we're really just looking at the future, how to improve the city. And as you heard from Jim, it is a multi-year effort. There's certainly some items that are short-term, but there's midterm, and there's also very long-term items in that. Okay, so let me move us to the deliverable 1, current state analysis. Now, on the right on these, you will see key findings. And I do want to stress that this is a limited set of the key findings. We are presenting these at a fairly high level, so that is certainly not an exhaustive list, but they're some of the more important items. For our current state analysis, we completed this in September of last year. And the focus was on a survey in which we received 53 responses, and that survey is of city employees. So it was limited inside the city government. It was a 23-question anonymous survey. We also conducted structured interviews, 36 of them, and those varied in length between 40 and 75 minutes each. It's a standard set of questions. And as we're going along, we allow individuals to expand on their input, and we then will ask clarifying questions and probing questions as well. So that was the main portion of deliverable 1. We had many positive responses and evidence of the implementation of IT services occurring in the city. We did see an overall lack of what we're calling situational awareness within the city, and that's mostly focused on there being a bit of a lack of data and information available in a lot of the areas. And that's related to the third item you see there, the low level of organizational maturity. So when you have an organization with a low level of organizational maturity, you expect to see that. And when we're talking about organizational maturity, we're focused primarily on processes within the city and how things are conducted in a structured way. Employees did report feeling comfortable providing recommendations for improvement. We received a lot of positive feedback from the employees. We also then, though, noticed that the city employees tended to define success often as there are no complaints or problems. That again pairs well with the organizational maturity we saw. It demonstrates ongoing operations that tend to be more reactionary rather than proactive and focused on quality. So that was the primary findings in deliverable 1. Again, a lot of this information is coming from survey responses in the interview, so from those individuals. In deliverable 2, this is when we began to focus in a wider range of items like documents, data requests, quantitative analyses, follow-up interviews on pointed topics. We also conducted analyses of legacy survey information and examined the legacy analyses as well. We met with the city's IT service consultant. We examined a broad range of publicly published materials, and we also looked at some national benchmark data, in particular for the library. With these are more of sort of the Blackbird findings versus the deliverable 1, which was more driven by city employee opinions on matters. So our key findings here is we do note that with budget tracking issues are certainly present, secondary to what we saw as dramatic differences in some of the reports historically moving to the current period. The library demonstrated excellent levels of performance compared to other libraries nationally. So we did see that's actually one of the areas where we saw a decent organizational maturity with what was happening there, and that was interesting to see. On the whole, though, and one of our biggest concerns here is that the management systems are severely lacking. And when we talk about management systems, we don't mean an IT system. Sometimes people think of that as strictly an IT system. It includes IT systems, but it includes processes and it includes the people being aligned in whatever needs to be accomplished. So that is what we saw severely lacking. We provide quite a few examples of those: quality management system, knowledge management systems. Those are just to name a few. We also noted that governance was severely lacking in a lot of different aspects, with tracking, documentation, and translation into processes. So there would be governance present in certain isolated areas, but it wasn't centralized and then systematically implemented through documentation and then cascaded down into processes like we would expect to see. We did note there's positive progress with customer relationship management systems, an example of which is the Grapevine tool. And that's only one of them. There certainly are others as well. And that paired well with our findings from deliverable 1, where we did see IT systems being implemented. And one of our major concerns is number 6 here. We did not find a strategic plan as we would consider one. And based on conversations we had with city leadership, no one else knew historically of the existence of any previous strategic plan. So that will be one of our main items that we'll recommend is the development of a strategic plan for the city. I think that's going to be very valuable for communicating to residents what the plan is to make improvements. And it will also be very helpful for management as well as all the employees within the city to have that kind of document to provide direction on where to head. Deliverable 3 was completed in February of this year. It was comprised of 4 subparts: organizational structure and staffing, process improvement and efficiency potential, financial efficiency, and technology utilization and modernization. Now, we looked at some of those topics in deliverable 2, but when we moved into deliverable 3, this was our chance to conduct a bit more of an in-depth review in some of the select areas of those items. One of the items we examined were salary levels, and certainly not of all employees. We limited primarily to executive management positions, and we did find those to be above average for a city of the population size of St. Helena, being below 10,000. We also noted that there was a lack of IT, HR and talent management within the city. So one of our primary recommendations is the hiring of a more senior HR manager to focus on the development of a talent management system for the city, and also an IT manager. There was no one currently in the city with an IT background serving in a sort of management capacity. You simply have a outside consultant providing those services. We saw this is a major weak point for the city, and are recommending that be an addition to support the organizational maturity efforts. And so that role is in particular, we believe, key for maturing the processes and effectively using IT to automate and gain efficiencies in that manner. We also recommend quality management and daily management system implementation. This is going to be part of the sort of process improvement component. We provide more details of those items in the report. We also recommend the procurement of specialized consulting services focused on fraud, waste, and abuse. And again, I think Jim brought this up. We did not find fraud within the city. So just once again, we did not find it. However, we also didn't necessarily look deeply for that as well. That's not necessarily something we dove into to examine anyway. And but what we're really after here with this recommendation is any organization where we find a very low level of process and organizational maturity, this tends to be a recommendation we'll make. It's healthy to have done. It's sort of a checkup, and I think brings reassurance to residents and other stakeholders for someone to come in and affirm, yeah, there is no fraud present. And it's also very valuable because a lot of the work done in this area isn't so much of we found fraud, it's preventing it. So the lack of the standard processes, what is an issue here, you'll want that specialist to be able to provide you guidance on specific policy items and also process items and potentially some technology items to implement to reduce the risk of fraud, waste, and abuse. So just wanted to clarify that. We also recommend the city re-examine minimum position qualifications. This pairs again with what we saw as a lack of a talent management system to really begin that effort. And this pairs with the recommendation of an HR manager. The city needs to take a look at the types of skills and qualifications it needs. And that's partly going to be driven by what kinds of transformation items you want to do. Obviously, you need to make sure you have in place the right talent over the long term to carry that transformation forward. So that's partly what's driving that recommendation as well. And then finally, we recommend the use of the Open Group Architecture Framework, TOGAF. Now, with this, I do want to emphasize TOGAF can be a rather large and complex framework. So we are recommending a significantly scaled down and simplified version of it. However, we do think it would be valuable to have some formal structure from that, some architecture to help in thinking more systematically about the different IT systems and how they connect ultimately into processes, and also how those IT systems work together. One of our concerns, the city has been implementing new IT. One of our concerns is whether or not a sufficient amount of thinking has gone into how those IT systems will work together rather than in isolation. Okay, and finally, I have a few slides here on deliverable 4, which is our final report. Now, our final report, just to give you some context, is about 100 pages in length. And we know that's a lot of material to go through. To help simplify that effort, we are providing what we call a transformation roadmap. And that's the images you are seeing on the screen right now, the pre-transformation activities, and then phase 1, 2, and 3. This is the transformation roadmap to provide you a visual. And the transformation roadmap that we're providing here ties directly to the report itself. And the pre-transformation activities are some of the things we recommend that may be helpful to the city to prepare for that type of transformation. As you examine the transformation roadmap, we want to explain it just in a bit more detail. You will see an alphanumeric on these boxes. So for example, with City Strategic Plan A.1, that will map to section A.1 of the report that provides more detailed information. And that should make the report overall much more digestible and easier to navigate. So when you know you're interested in a particular item like City Strategic Plan, you can go simply to that section, which may be only 1 to maybe 3 pages in length, and focus there, while at the same time the roadmap provides you a visual of how some of these items connect. You will also notice we'll have some of these yellow highlighted numbers that we're referring to as lever points. And these are places where we believe a small shift or improvement can result in disproportionately large changes. So those are definitely areas to emphasize and focus on a bit more. I also wanted to say we did not include arrows purposefully in the roadmap, and that is because we did not want to show directional flow. Rather, we simply want to show the connectivity between some of these recommended elements to show how they're mutually enhancing and reinforcing in some ways. So don't consider it as a transformation roadmap where we're recommending that you must do a step 1 first and then move to a step 2 and then 3 and so on. We did not want to present it as something as simple linear approach like that. Okay, and some of the key recommendations from the transformation roadmap as we're thinking about moving forward. Number 1 here that I'll emphasize again is a city strategic plan. We believe that that's going to be critical for coordination and communication of strategic initiatives that can advance the city in terms of efficiency and effectiveness. And it will also give you that multi-year view. So when someone's thinking about maybe there's an issue and we're thinking, well, what is the plan? This would then become that high-level plan for what might be going on with it. I will also say that the transformation roadmap itself should be thought of as a bit of a living document. Obviously, as you're moving forward, new information or circumstances might come in and you will want to update the transformation roadmap as you're moving forward. And I also want to stress that with the roadmap, we certainly do not believe that we have a monopoly on good ideas and have total knowledge of what's happening. We know there's a lot of other individuals and committees that are doing great work and thinking about recommendations. What we would recommend to you is consider gathering some of that information from those individuals and adding it to the transformation roadmap so that you have all of it in one place, a nice visual. Other key items we are recommending here is that talent management system. At the end of the day, the city government is a service type organization focusing on talent, and the development of talent internal to the city is critical. Business process re-engineering is going to be an important step to achieving those efficiency improvements. We also are recommending the development of executive dashboard. I think that's going to improve situational awareness and transparency dramatically. And it can also be used as a bit of a forcing mechanism to ensuring that the processes that are implemented are actually being conducted in a timely way. We are recommending a public works long-term strategy to be further explored. This is simply a sort of exploration type recommendation in thinking about public works, water, and wastewater. We are also recommending a system of systems approach with TOGAF. And this is, again, we do not want to create a set of systems that are siloed. We want to unleash the power of the information that you'll be gathering from those processes so that leadership can make informed decisions and optimal decisions. And we believe that's going to be an important part of that. Governance and policy framework, we also believe will be critical so that policies can be cascaded down to the process level, and it can be centralized for tracking purposes. So again, this has been a high-level overview of the study to date to give you an idea of what we had, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I can at this time.
Any initial questions from my colleagues? Mr. Fawcett, let me drill down a little bit on the conclusion that the city does not have a strategic plan. I need to better understand what exactly you mean by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I had seen some references to strategic plans in the past that were a set of goals and perhaps initiatives or objectives listed underneath them. That's not what we would be referencing in terms of a strategic plan. In the report itself, we provide some visuals of sample plans from other cities. It would include items, not simply the goals themselves, but also consideration for what might need to be done so that the personnel in the city are set up for success, right? So that could be strategic hires. It could be the acquisition of new assets. There's any variety of things that could be happening with something like that. But it would be putting those down on paper so that people can see the plan forward. So it could certainly include the goals and the strategic objectives and so on. However, there would be more discussion in here of how. So what exactly is the plan to achieve those items? So it'd be expanded upon in that nature. It's still a somewhat high-level document, though, so obviously you can't go into detail. The detail would be found in project or program management plans.
All right. So as you're aware, the city has a vision statement,
Yes.
has a mission statement that sets out the city's purpose. Council priorities and goals have been set forward.
Yes.
There are a number of, there's I think over 200 objectives with a online dashboard showing the progress of each of those objectives.
Yes.
Isn't that, although it's a number of different documents, a strategic plan?
No.
Tell me
No,
why.
that's-
Tell
I
me
mean,
why.
Yes, so I'm happy to. So those all explain what you want to achieve, but it doesn't necessarily expand on how, right? And so with the strategic plan that we're recommending, you're going to be getting more into the how you will do that. So what is the plan for how you will achieve those items? So we definitely want to see that sort of the cascading down, and we saw that from goals to initiatives. And it's good that you want your vision, you want your purpose statement. There's other items that other cities might add to that as well, like core values and things. But at the heart, you want to be talking a lot more about how you're going to achieve those things. So given what your purpose is, how will you get there? So that's what we mean by that.
All right. And I appreciate that distinction. I actually agree with that distinction. I do think we can have a more robust strategic plan for our community. What are your views in terms of getting the community engaged to help the council develop that? I think that to me is the one area that we're lacking in, which it's more driven by the council, although it's a democracy, the council represents the community. What do you see in other communities in terms of how that is developed with city engagement?
Yeah, I mean, other cities, it depends upon how much time and money you want to invest in it. But other cities will have sessions where the public is allowed to gather at sort of like brainstorming sessions at tables to work as independent groups to come up with ideas. Certainly surveys, and I know you've already done some of those, can be helpful as well. But there are a lot of different possible events you can host to gather information from individuals. And it does tend to be a bit iterative. And it's not as if you have a particular event that you need to discuss every possible topic. That might be overwhelming, and the individuals that are present might not be informed enough. But on certain topics, it might be very fruitful to gather resident opinion on what they think should happen, how they think it should happen, things of that nature. So that's something we could provide to you and provide a bit more information on that.
All right, thank you for that. I noticed one of your observations and recommendations or observations that the city could save a substantial amount of money, nearly $600,000 in executive compensation just through attrition at the management level. It raised a question in my mind. What if the attrition doesn't happen quickly enough to get the savings? Then what do you recommend?
Yeah, so it would be a combination of things going on. So, one item would be with the talent management plan, looking at both for the city and the employees, what is a fair base salary? So that would be a component of that. There would also be potential for strategic alliances. We're potentially sharing resources with other cities is something that we brought up as an idea around that. And then also, as we're thinking about the efficiency and automation, and I don't want to lose track too that we are in interesting times with AI automation, and that's becoming increasingly powerful. And that will pair perfectly into some of the efficiency type work that needs to be done. As that goes on, you will find that what often most people would think of as more of the tedious type work that they have to do and things of that nature dissipate. And you can then start thinking about, do we truly need the number of staff in a particular area? Could we decrease there? And likely you can. That is part of the benefit of gaining efficiencies and of it. However, the real question then becomes, and this again goes to the strategic plan, if you have staff available, you could also think of it from the perspective of not necessarily, grabbing the savings, but potentially redeploying it to a more value-added area to improve effectiveness. So that's always depends upon what goal you're trying, what goal you need. I know there's always financial realities, but we also certainly investing in other areas potentially of improved effectiveness is also a good idea. So there is a balance there depending upon what you would ultimately want to do.
Thank you for that. I assume that you and your staff have observed and investigated and researched smaller communities like ours and come to some conclusions about success and failure. Do you have a sense of maybe what are the top 2 or 3 or 4 pitfalls that make it difficult to achieve success? What should we be looking out for over the next 2 years so that we can use this data and documentation to build success? And I guess you have any examples of failures, and if you've seen failures, in particularly in smaller cities like ours, what were the cause of those failures in making the transformation that you're recommending?
Well, certainly one of the things that we have seen that can be a failure point is the lack of a good plan, right? And that is why we are recommending the strategic plan and also a transformation roadmap. So we have seen situations where things have gotten started, but a plan was not made at the beginning, or certainly not a more long-term plan. And they attempted to go down a list, but they didn't really take the time to think through the how part. How will we do this? And they inevitably run into pretty significant stumbling blocks because of that. The other issue here is change, right? So change in what we're talking about here is more transformational change. So we're not talking about a small incremental change in one particular element. We're talking about changes across a variety of areas that interact. Change is hard. Transformational change is harder. So if you are not prepared for that change, and the city personnel are not prepared for that change and what it looks like, that can be a major issue in of itself. When you look at our pre-transformation activities that we provide, one of the items we include is that sort of change training, and that's why it's there.
All right, I have other questions, but I can wait. I know I'd like to hear from our public. Let me take the opportunity to open it for public comment. If folks want to ask questions or make public comment. How many folks are, just so I can gauge how many folks are wanting to talk tonight? 1, 2, I think we can get through it without cards, comment cards. So we'll just move through it. Mr. Rose, you're up for some enlightenment.
My name is Gary Rose, 1753 Vineyard, Mayor Doring, Vice Mayor Deasy, council members. I read quite in detail deliverables 1 through 3. The deliverable 4, I've skimmed, well, more than skimmed. I've gotten through it in some detail, but it gets really detailed when you get into phases, the phase part beyond the change management and the strategic plan. So I've prepared just a little bit, and I would like to thank Paul for his really thoughtful questions. He hit a lot of the things that I've covered here. But in summary, I would like to mention that oversight is mentioned in the report 76 times, and trust is mentioned 59 times.
Is that confirmed by AI?
That was confirmed by Word.
Okay, I'll give you 20 more seconds.
Okay. Assuming the City Council acknowledges a need for efficiency and business transformation for the city, a change manager should be the first step. Now, having been through one of these transformational changes that I think ultimately would be considered a failure in a company that was doing about $60 million a year, and it was because we did not have a transformation or a change manager, and we had what Keith mentioned as our plan was really not a plan. So the critical part, a change manager should be the first step. The pre-transformation phase and strategic plan are critical. As the transformation plan proceeds, increased flexibility will be required. It's tempting to look for mistakes or wrong assumptions in the study, but don't be overly reactive and determine the importance of the study based on these criticisms. The overall tone of the study is what is important, and it is very telling. Acknowledge the need for considerable change, set a goal of successful transformation, and it will involve cultural change as well. Change management program manager, and this comes right out of their report. I put the absolutely required on it, but it needs independent oversight. This is a person that's not currently making decisions in the city. We need a program management office, if you want to, not an office space, but that title. I think a transformation oversight committee is going to also be very important. The fraud, waste, and abuse contract, I think Keith covered quite well. No fraud there, but we need to really be aware of it. The transformation roadmap, extremely important, and change management training is absolutely imperative, and strategic planning training also. And then human resource manager hiring, I put that in because that was in his roadmap. I don't have any experience in that. The strategic plan, and he did mention, and Paul, your question was very, very good about what's the difference between what we have now and their idea of a strategic plan. It's a strategic plan versus a simple list of goals and objectives, and the how is really important. This is hard to do. This requires that the city council, in my opinion, the council really needs to step up. You're going to have to be involved with the staff and the program manager to come up with this strategic plan. It involves public trust, which is at the top of the list. It requires enhanced city oversight, and the city manager and executive manager need to be extensively involved. Additional phases, as you get into those, you'll need to analyze. May I go?
10 more seconds.
Okay.
Finish up.
Analyze and modify as required to St. Helena circumstances, and don't sabotage the process. The plan should be a primary responsibility of the current and future city councils. They should abide by the strategic plan and maintain vigilant oversight and accountability of the city manager. And I'll leave it at that. I've got a few more words, but
All right,
that's
thank you,
enough.
Mr. Rose. Excellent comments. Appreciate your time. Mr. Warner, welcome.
Hello there. Hi, I'm Chris Warner. I'm here in a different capacity than you usually see me. I'm here actually as your acting chair of your Finance Committee, and I'm not here to make any comments on the substance or findings or observations. I think your process you're going to adopt in looking at this study is probably going to be the most important thing you provide guidance on. However, I want to start out talking about the process. I really want to praise the City Council. I want to praise the Mayor, Councilmember Barak, and all the City Council members because you have done something extraordinary here. You assigned this overall transformation and modernization study out a year ago with the idea that you were going to have an outsider come in, not as an audit, but to provide independent advice to you on how to better improve the city. That's extraordinary because I don't think that's happened, at least in my knowledge, in this city or elsewhere very often. Secondly, you also, I'm talking about my role as acting chair of the Finance Committee, you created a Finance Committee with the role that you've assigned to us to actually look at improving the finances of the city, and in particular looking at the balance of general fund expenditures and revenues. And we're doing that. And I think some of the consultants' recommendations do overlap in some fashion with what we're doing as a Finance Committee. Our members are all residents and citizens of this community. We've got a really good collegial group that know this community, and we've also had tremendous support from the staff, the city staff, in helping us analyze financial matters. So I just want to be here from a process standpoint to offer to continue to advise you, help you as you move forward to evaluate this study. We had our own initial presentation by the Blackburg Group earlier this year. Committee has not taken a position, but we will have an opportunity to provide you, if you so wish, our thoughts on the recommendations and findings, particularly those that overlap with the tasks that you assigned to us on financial integrity, structural balance of revenues and expenditures. And I note that there are several cost savings recommended in this study. We're happy to review them consistent with what you've asked us to do. So that's all I have to say. But again, high praise for actually having done this study because it's an extraordinary achievement. Now let's go ahead and execute. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner, for your comments. Good comments. I'll say that Mr. Barrett deserves a lot of the credit, as does Vice Mayor Deasy, to move this this study forward, and I'm much appreciative. Next up, don't be shy, Ms. Wheaton.
Kelly Wheaton, Inglewood. I left my reading glasses at home, so whatever remarks I had prepared, I can't read, so I'm going to wing it. I thought both Gary and Chris's remarks were excellent, and I think that all of us, I had a conversation back and forth with Jim, who I want to compliment for your warmth and your reaching out to the community. It's been wonderful, a breath of fresh air. But I talked to him about a three-legged stool. And the staff is one leg of the stool, and the council is another leg of the stool, and the community, it might not work, nope. Is another leg. And we have to work together on this to make it work. And that trust that's talked about and the things, we can help each other. We can be supportive of staff. Staff can be supportive of us. We can get things done. So I really want, when you're looking at things and you're sending out memos and you're writing staff reports, to include the community. We're the third leg of the stool. We are important because if we don't buy in, you're not going to be successful. So that's one of the points that I wanted to make. I was a little bit concerned about the rollout and the request by Jim to not have a report available till August or sometime in the summer. But then I was a little bit reassured with the things that he was talking about doing right away. I really think it's important that the city council oversee this and direct it and tell the city manager what you want him to do, and then he in turn tells the staff, and everybody working together for a common goal rather than factions and people fighting and whispering behind closed doors and all that sort of thing. If we work together, we can accomplish this. We can be collegial. We can disagree without being disagreeable. The leadership means that the city council exercises its authority that the voters entrusted in you, instead of continually deferring this difficult decision-making to the staff or to the city manager. And that has been what I've observed over the past 5 or 6 years when I'm watching, is that the council basically says, okay, what do you think? And yeah, it goes back for a staff report, and that's not working. You are elected to lead, and you need to do it. And I do appreciate that Aaron and Michelle and the council as a whole voted to have this study done. But it's really you guys. That's your job. And I think you couldn't have had a better interim to help you, lead you, and accomplish what you want. I can't read the rest of it, so I'll just leave it at that. So thank you very much. And thank the staff for their patience in having to absorb this report and the difficult things that are in it. That's hard. That's about human beings and their lives and their jobs and the unease with where it's all going to filter out. So I do want to thank you for your patience and for your hard work. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Appreciate
gracious comments.
Good comments. Sorry, Mr. Merrick. Thank you for that.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Tracy McBride.
Ms. McBride, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for seeing everybody here who's here tonight and at home. You know, our city governing document is the general plan. In it, it states the community vision is for a sustainable community, a stable economy, and environmental stewardship. Without the residents, the people who are here tonight, supporting the ecosystem, which is St. Helena, we don't have a community. The general plan is the guiding document for government to implement. Maybe I've missed it, but I don't see it in this report, even mentioned. Without two-way communication that involves actually listening and respectfully responding, we won't achieve anything. I get this study is about how you're going to govern, but I think you also need to state the what it is that you are doing. You are implementing the general plan, and the vision listed in the general plan should be guiding what we do. I sincerely ask that the governing body respect the input from the residents who call the city home. And that goes both ways. The residents need to respect the city. We've got to work together or we have nothing. I get that the heart of the details, as the consultant said, are in how things get done, but let's not lose sight of these three important points for a sustainable community, a stable economy, and environmental stewardship. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Excellent. Others? There you are. Don't forget your glasses.
Oh, thank you. I don't get far without
I'm
them
playing with you.
today.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of
Good
the
evening.
council. And I'm so happy to see Mr. McCann in the position he's in. I've known him for many years, and I have so much respect for him. I felt better immediately when I read that. So we're very lucky to have you in this capacity. I just wanted to say, I've lived in St. Helena. I'm Donna Oldford, by the way. I've lived in St. Helena now for over 30 years, 35 years, in fact. And I mostly like to be an observer since I was a planning consultant and worked in so many other places. So I think with St. Helena, there's been a lot of discussion about trust and credibility. And I think this is a community that really, really wants to trust its elected officials and its staff. In fact, ironically, we might not be in the situation we're in today if people had been less trusting. But I think that's the number one thing is mutual respect and trust, and everybody recognizing that every single person is just probably doing the best they can. That will make a huge difference, especially in this day and age, because it's just pretty fiery out there. I remember once being thrown out of the planning department of a city with a guy, in fact, it was the son of Sandra Day O'Connor, the Supreme Court Justice. He was my client, and he really worked this planning director over. It was just so awful for me that I kept trying to get him to tone down, and it didn't work. And we literally got thrown out of the office. And I walked out. I was so angry with him. I said, you know, I want you to sit and think, you have two boys. What if one of your boys was the planning director in this town and he was talked to the way you talked to that man? Just, I want you to think about that when you go home, because these are people who devote their considerable talents and efforts to do this instead of doing something maybe more lucrative, certainly more fun. So I hope we can find that sense of trust again. That's all I had to say, really. Thank you and good luck.
Appreciate your comments, Ms. Olford. Thank you. Others? Okay, who's going to do the closing argument? Mr. Belt. We've got you and go ahead, Mr. Belt.
So my name's Tom Belt. I've lived here for almost 50 years.
Welcome, Mr. Belt.
Oh, okay. Kelly brought up an important thing in my mind, and I wasn't prepared to make a presentation or speak tonight, but she talked about the third leg of this of that stool, and that third leg is the community. And in all of the years I've been involved with coming and speaking and everything, the one thing I would like to recommend in relation to the importance of the community and involving the community is I have noticed a lack in this city of having town hall meetings. Recently, the water committee, the wastewater committee, brought a presentation to the library, and it was really well done, and it gave people a chance to really ask questions, not in 4 minutes. They were able to ask questions as long as they wanted, and they got answers to those questions. And I don't remember many times in St. Helena where we've had town hall meetings. One of the last ones I remember was in the fire department, And it was about one of the Adams Streets properties, and there was about 100 people there who responded to the questions and answers that were given. And I would like to recommend that City Council and the city staff and Mr. McMahon, maybe once every 3 months, once every 6 months or something, bring in the community and listen to what they have to say and give them a response to their questions. And I think we might be able to achieve some better communication is all. So, and again, I thank you all. I'm very grateful for Aaron and Michelle and getting this study done. I remember when I was at the meeting when he made the recommendation, and I'm very, very happy that we have it in our hands now, and let's go forward and get some things done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Belt.
I'm Michael Marston at 1325.
Come a little closer to the mic, Mr. Marston, and welcome. Thank you. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better. Thank you.
I'm Michael Marston at 1325 Hillview. I want to suggest that we move together constructively. There's been a lot of divisive issues, citizens against everything, particularly if it is close to their place. And I think it's time to move on to a very positive, what do we want? And I'm very impressed with the city council and staff for taking the lead in hiring what seems to be a fine report by Blackburn. So let's put the past behind us and constructively make good things happen in this city. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the kind comments. Very productive.
Sandra McCorkle on Meadow Creek Circle. I hadn't planned to speak tonight, but this is such an outstanding report. I had to thank the council for getting this organization done. And there are just two things that I'd like to talk about. And one is we all came out of a small town governance where we had a lot of volunteers, volunteer library, volunteer fire department. That required and facilitated a lot of shared governance. And then I'm partly responsible for this, leading a school public policy. We created a really strong, modern, bureaucratic-led government. And I think what's coming back in style, and the Blackburn Group really got close to this, is the notion of shared collaborative governance. And that's an emerging model in local government. And I think everyone here has explained it in their own way, but it's different. It's a collaborative model where local officials, municipal staff, and residents share decision-making. It goes beyond traditional civic engagement and consultation by ensuring that diverse stakeholders actively co-design policies, allocate budgets, and solve community problems together. And I think you've made great steps with the Finance Committee and the Wastewater Commission on doing this. And it's just, we're clearly nearly there. And I think looking at it as a fact that we could lead in the country, because this is such an emerging concept. Yes, it requires a lot of work. It requires consensus. It requires time invested. But the core pillars of this framework are that there is a collaborative partnerships. City leaders and community members view each other as equals. You rely on shared experiences, lived experiences, along with bureaucratic expertise. It does require mechanisms or processes, as Blackburn refers to them, of neighborhood councils, participatory budgeting, and advisory committees to ensure that we have a continued input into the operations. It's our city, and we love our city, and we want to help make it better. And it's a shared ownership because public and staff help create the policies. There's a deeper commitment of the community to accountability. So I think we're so close to being there. I know you're all saying Brown Act, Brown Act, Brown Act, but I don't think the Brown Act was set up to deter the kind of shared governance and collaborative decision-making that we're talking about. So I congratulate all of you, because I do think, as the gentleman just said, we're on the cusp of a new paradigm. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCorkle. Excellent comments. Appreciate your time. Others? Ms. Lou Covell, how are you?
Hello, Council. Good evening, community. My name is Michelle Lou Cavell. I am speaking solely as a resident today, not in any role I serve. Thank you to the Blackbird Group for providing a truthful analysis. As you stated...
In other words, you're not representing the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I get 10 more seconds. As
All right.
you stated, some of the
We'll see.
findings may feel unsettling or concerning. I appreciate the hard, honest truth, because that is how we learn and grow and improve. I hope this report gives St. Helena the opportunity to finally turn the page, to acknowledge the findings, accept the reality of where we are, and discontinue dismissing the concerns residents have been raising for decades. This town is special. People fight hard for St. Helena because it has a strong sense of community and place. Loving a town also means being honest about its problems. The reports clearly show that we need to prioritize the lack of that we have a lack of management. And I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing because I'm editing all of the time. So, and most important of all, we need a comprehensive strategic plan. The general plan is a great place to start. Clean water is not a luxury. It is a basic need. A notification months after an incident alerting high levels of HAA that may cause some people higher risks of cancer while stating it is safe to drink is like saying margarine is a healthier choice than butter. This is reactive. Residents have paid rates for decades with the understanding that those funds were supporting maintenance, infrastructure, and long-term capital improvements to ensure reliable delivery of water and services. But as the final report highlights, decades of deferred investments have now left residents footing the bill. We have held up our end of the deal. Many residents did not realize their utility payments were also going towards settling lawsuits and legal fees while critical infrastructure projects continued to be delayed. To me, that feels like hiring a financial advisor to manage your retirement portfolio, only to discover decades later that the investments were never made. Our water neutrality policy is also not truly neutral. The policy was created more than a decade ago, based on a much smaller scale of development. Yet as projects increase in size and demand, the policy was never meaningfully reevaluated. There aren't enough toilets to replace to make this town grow water neutral. Today, we are seeing large-scale projects where fees may offset 1 year of demand, but long-term impacts to the system remain. Cumulatively, this could break the camel's back. And when residents ask whether we actually have enough water, the response cannot simply be the pipe's diameters are large enough. The real question is whether there will be water in those pipes. The valley, we live in a valley shaped by water, and we rely on reservoirs and infrastructure systems that require long-term planning, maintenance, and investment. This really is like, we are really like living in a giant dry pipe. Critical thinking matters because the consequences of failing to plan are very real. We have seen wastewater issues, environmental fines, and increasing costs passed on to the residents. We are trucking more sludge away. We cannot operate in reaction mode. We need proactive planning that assures sustainable growth without compromise. I have a little bit more to go.
Give you 20 seconds, ma'am. Finish up.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know there's no fraud found. I guess that's what the statement is, but what about waste? Residents are tired of revolving door consultants. What I'm really excited about is I saw 7 applicants for city council, and this is including myself, but I think collaboration is key. A strategic plan is necessary. You can say you want to throw a birthday party and list out goals, but if you don't have a plan to execute the birthday party, it's not going to happen. So I had more to say. I'll publish it on my Substack.
Thank you, Ms. Lou Cavell. Others? All right, I'll bring it back.
Last but not least. Ready? Start the clock. Hi, everybody. Tamara Sorensen, St. Helena resident, and I had a letter prepared. I did send it in for public comments. I did receive confirmation. I don't know if it was in for the packet, but I was going to read it. But in hearing all of the folks that have brought some really significant points to light, I just want to sort of read a couple of things in my letter and also expound upon that. And a number of people have said the word, and I think it was 59 times or 79 times, trust in the Blackburg report. Well, I think that the City Council does deserve kudos for reaching out and having this this third-party report take 9 months and really digging deep to see what's underneath all of that stilted water that we have. Finding out that trust is a main component or lack thereof, that also there is a level of bureaucracy that is not functioning. That also I read the report to some degree, and efficiencies seem to keep coming to play, that the recommendations are for not only cost savings but for efficiencies. And that is kind of an oxymoron when you're putting efficiency and bureaucracy in the same sentence. So we'll take that for what it is. But I am so thankful for the Blackburg report. I hope that we do not lose sight of that report. I hope that we do not lose sight of the recommendations in that report, the severity of that report, what we need to do as a town, what you folks need, we need to do as a council that report states. And clearly in the trust element, there has been public records released in response to Elaine Demand's requests clearly show that there's a lot of issues within this current city council where there is behavior that has been, and I'm not going to mention names, although they're here this evening, that there has been a pattern of ridicule towards proceedings, dismissal of public discussion as a waste of time, treating important public safety and policy issues as political gains or personal score settling. Residents and fellow council members are openly disrespected, and I heard the word respect. We need to respect each other, but it has to come from our leadership. We have instilled trust in our leaders, and to not be shown that respect and ability to trust that they will implement these recommendations is very concerning to me, and I think to some other folks that I've chatted with. So most critical point is the pattern of behavior is a real major roadblock to implementing the Blackburg recommendations in any meaningful way. So I am also glad to see 7 new names on that city council recommendations list, or applications. I'm not using the verbiage correctly. And yeah, I'm looking for new leadership, frankly. I want to see what real leadership looks like, and that would be adopting clear, enforceable council code of conduct, devices down policy during meetings, council meetings, side discussions about agenda items while the meetings are in session is a no-go. Holding public governance workshops that are open to residents focused on restoring decorum, demonstrating through your actions that you are fully committed to the professional culture required to deliver what the Blackburg reforms state. And 10 more seconds, Mayor, if you would please.
Give you 10 seconds. Thank you.
Thank
Finish
you.
up, please.
St. Helena has fallen from grace. Okay, it has. We deserve a city council that works together respectfully and effectively so we can achieve better services, stronger finances, and a vibrant future for the residents and visitors. Let's choose a higher standard of leadership. Our town's future depends on it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, I've learned now to take a 10-second pause Any other public comment before I bring it back to the council? I'll close public comment then. That may have been 8 seconds. All right, bring it back to the council. Questions or comments based on the comments? I think Mr. McCann has laid out what he's looking for and has already sort of presupposed where we're going to go with it. But Ms. Barrett, do you have any comments, or Ms. Battleroto?
I do.
Vice Mayor?
I'd like
Okay.
to just touch on the town hall component that Mr. Belt brought up. Mr. McCann, I think it would be worthwhile to look into that and see what we can come up with. I wouldn't recommend modeling the last firehouse meeting, but more with what Michelle and the water committee set up. I thought that was excellent. And as far as the Blackburn report, it's great to see so many people excited about it and staff. I would just say that I think it's premature. We should let the staff go back and work with staff on this.
All right. Others? Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to Councilmember Barrick for initiating all this. I think it's really just great to have these discussions. Thank you to Blackburg. Thank you to the staff and the council, and definitely for the community for coming out and all of the great comments. I think it's exciting, actually, and we have an opportunity to raise our level. I do some evaluation work, and we always title that, opportunities for improvement. And so everyone's got it. I think that's important to recognize. So I'd like to see us embrace it. I heard, 3 things: shared ownership, independent oversight, and a transformation officer. Those were the 3 things that rose to the top to me, which I do think we should be pretty focused on. But I do have one question for Blackburg. How do we not over-engineer this? I'm imagining there's a kind of a fine balance. And one of the things we talked about on the phone is, right, you have the levels 1 through 5. And I wanted to make the point that I don't think any organization is all 5s, and probably shouldn't be, because that would be so expensive. My understanding is that we maybe shoot for all level 3s, and we pick a few things we want to be 5s in. Can you talk to all of that, Keith?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're correct. So agree with you completely there. You're looking for 3 across the board. And in terms of the level 5s, that takes more investment of time and resources. It's expensive in a variety of ways. So to the extent that organizations will seek a higher level for 5, you want that to be focused on highly impactful items, or something potentially where it's a very high risk type item. So that's what you're looking for to narrow that down. But you wouldn't ever look at trying to take all the maturity across the whole city to a 4 or 5. Certainly you would not do that.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Battleroto, do you have anything to add to the commentary here?
Thank you again for the report, and thank you, fellow council members, for pushing this into fruition. I think it is obviously a great thing that we have to be able to see where we can improve. I do think there are some things we've been doing great as in the city, but there's always room for improvement with all of us in different situations. And I am looking forward to leaning on the strengths and then building from some of our weaknesses into strengths. So I think this is going to be really not something to be looking at necessarily in any negative light, but I think is positive as far as things that we can improve on from what we were doing before. So I'm looking forward to where we go forward, working with working with the staff and working with the community to better our processes.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I wanted to just take a moment to thank the community for showing up to the meeting and for expressing yourself in such a civil, respectful, really a highly productive. Yes, ma'am?
Can I ask one question? It was my next line, and I think it's really important.
No. But you can certainly submit it in writing. We're right in the middle of deliberations, so no. If I open it up for you, then I'm going to open it up for others, and we have to be respectful of time. But please submit it in writing. That would be great. Now I lost my train of thought, so let me start again. Yes, I was particularly heartened by the words of Mr. Rose. I thought you made a number of excellent points. I'm glad you went first. And the fact that you had experienced a failed change or a failed transformation in the private sector, as at least how you described it. I don't know all the details of that. You have a heightened look at what can go wrong and where we need to emphasize and what areas that are just really important. In the end, I found this report exasperating, but also highly enlightening and highly encouraging. So all three can happen at the same time. It kind of reminds me of my children, but that's another story. There's a lot of great opportunity here, and there's a lot to bite off. I mean, it's huge. There's a lot going on here, but you see some big ticket items that become obvious to me. And, because we have the council, manager, city form of government, I'd like to give our staff a chance to respond to it over the next couple of weeks or months and bring back something that really makes sense for our community. Ultimately, we have to own it, as Blackbird says. Ultimately, these recommendations have to be our recommendations, not Blackbird's recommendation. And so I think it's important for the staff to delve into this in detail in the public works area with the project management office, the potential for HR, the focus on IT and how we move that forward and use the training we have. So I'm looking forward. There's a lot there, but I see a lot of areas that we certainly can improve. And I think that it is important for the council to stay abreast of it, even if there is nothing to report. I think every couple of weeks or once a month or something, just a little bit of feedback saying, here's where we are, this is what we anticipate, here's some of the roadblocks, or here's some of the areas of focus that we have. Would that make sense to you, Mr. McCann? So that we don't, government sometimes gets all excited and then it drops off the cliff, and I like to keep it on the, I'm mixing metaphors here, back on the cliff, I'll put it that way. Yeah.
Yes, I think that makes perfect sense. We don't intend to take this and put it on the shelf. There's a lot to it. There's quite a bit that we need to sort out, to just understand how some of these things are connected, so we can come back and make sound recommendations. But certainly between now and then, we can absolutely have an item on the agenda just to let folks know where we are.
All right. Vice Mayor. Yeah,
I'm sorry, I know we're like
worries.
just about to leave, but I'm going to
please
respond or dig into that a little bit. I actually wonder a bit about throwing this on the staff, and while of course they should be deeply engaged, it's a lot, and doing this transformation is a fairly specific skill set. So I'm hoping our expectations are not for the staff to come back with how to implement this, because that, I think, would be asking far too much.
No, and I think Mr. McCann laid out that that's not what he plans to do.
And there
But
was
go
a
ahead.
consultant, I think, he mentioned consultants.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to be clear. And then I also wanted to say that
It's good to clarify that,
okay,
for sure, yeah.
that we kind of are in the midst of a pretty high priority high priority item, which is hiring the right city manager. And these discussions are, of course, coming into that, and recognize the importance of staging whatever that may be. So we, in a way, are potentially on it in some other ways.
I would just add, and I agree with what the mayor and the vice mayor said. In a lot of these things, I know we're in chambers and things go quick, and there's a lot of things that have been mentioned that we might assume everybody's threading together. But Jim, you mentioned needing specific skill sets up front to help walk through this. I completely agree. It's no shame in the game. Transformation is really hard. It's a skill set, and it's different from operations. And so you're going to need help, somebody that can come in and manage that change management. Two, as council members, we cannot just disengage from this process. Ultimately, I wouldn't expect this to be hey, staff goes off on their own and comes back and we rubber stamp something. This would be, of course, as we walk forward together, we'll be looking at things in real time before it gets necessarily here in a staffing report, as well as community feedback. So this is going to be a long journey, and it's one, I think the mayor having something every month, a checkpoint's a great idea so we don't lose the threads.
So, Mr. Mayor, just to respond to a couple points.
Yes. And we'll get to that as we move forward, but yeah.
Sure. Just to clarify and to agree, we are not doing all of this. So just to be clear. But what we will do is take, this document and bring a plan to you about how we recommend that we proceed to implement it. And some of that absolutely will involve some outside help. So, I've spoken with Mr. Fawcett a few times, and I've asked him, I said, so I might need your help. And he's like, yes, we're there. They are available to help us to identify recommended ways to go forward, and to identify perhaps some firms that have a particular expertise in this to help us figure out those steps. Once we have that, and once we identify some of the other areas that we believe we can move forward with immediately on our own, we'll come back and talk with you about that. We'll develop a plan to allow us to implement the document and some of the more immediate things, and we'll ask for your approval for that, and that'll perhaps include authorization to go out and seek consultant help. At the same time, I don't know exactly how, but I think we do need to hear more from the community to get their input. Town halls are awesome. I like doing them. So I think that would be a wonderful thing. There's lots of information for us to share, beyond the efficiency study. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to just talk about what's going on, what's coming up, and solicit from folks the areas that are particularly of interest to them. So, transformation, just that's change. That's doing things differently. And so that is something to talk about, because there's great appreciation for the qualities of a small town and some of the contact and sometimes simple nature of some of that interaction. And so we're talking about, all sorts of more advanced computer systems and different types of things. We have to make sure that when we make that transformation, we don't leave anybody behind. And so we just want to make sure that it works for everybody. And I think it can. But there's certainly more to come, and we'll be needing some help. And I think absolutely the City Council needs to be involved in how we do this. The idea of some type of advisory body makes perfect sense to me. And I think we've got a couple of very good examples of how those things can be successful. So I think we ought to take a look at that and build upon it. So we are where we are, which is sort of at the end of the document coming together and the beginning of us putting it into practice, and that's an exciting thing, I think.
All right, excellent comments. Any parting words from the Blackbird folks?
Just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with everyone. I know this is really critical for the town. We spent a lot of time and effort here, and we thank you for trusting us with this important effort, and we're here to support you going forward.
All right, thank you for your wonderful efforts. Appreciate it. Yeah, they did a good job. Yeah. All right. Anything else, Mr. McCann, before we adjourn? Colleagues? No. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night.